to welcome you all to, I'd like to welcome you all to the closing keynote with Dr. Julie Todaro. I am Sandy Hirsch, and I am the director of the School of Information here at San Jose State University. And just to get us started, before I turn it over to Julie, I wanted to hopefully you've had a great time hearing about all the important information that's been presented today, and you've had some good discussions around the important topics that we've covered around competencies, careers, and expertise. This is such an important, timely topic for our field, and Julie Todaro is such a great person for us to hear from her perspective as the ALA president and the initiative that she's been leading as part of her presidential initiative, as well as all the experience and expertise she brings herself. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to her so she has the full amount of time to wrap us up today and share her thoughts on this topic. So take it away, Julie.
Thank you, Sandy. Please let me know you can hear me, because I got that odd kind of connection to the teleconference has failed again. Can you hear and see me? I can hear yes, but no, okay, great. Okay, I'll keep going. Thank you. You could tell from not only the 3 papers presented earlier, but also from the individual presenters, that there's a great deal going on right now in the study of competencies and specific areas of expertise. And that's very exciting to me, because this is going to sound very odd, but because we can make a concrete difference in what we're doing. We can create products to move people along. We can create career paths for people. And so I'm always appreciative of research that can, in fact, prepare us for concrete activities, actions, function, etc. So I think it's exciting that we're seeing 2 things happening. One is that people are taking a very close look at our existing competency set and what our curriculum has been. The vast majority of library schools continue to update their curriculum. They always have. Some do minor overhauls, some do major overhauls, but in general, we know that our graduate education has kept up. What I think that we don't see as much is the infrastructure that we have in the umbrella organization in all types of libraries keep up as much as we would like it to. And in fact, some of that is within our control and some of that is not within our control. So in an infrastructure, in fact, in most infrastructures, you can't just as a whim change the title of a job family or a job group or an individual title of someone officially on the books. Oftentimes we have standard job descriptions that we have to use, but even in those cases, what we recommend for employers to do is create bridges, and these bridges move between the documents. They create the explanation of a more standard or fixed job description, or they are the second tier of a job title for someone. So there are many ways to bridge the infrastructures that are in place on top of us that oftentimes don't let us be creative as we would like to be in our individual job environments. I think that everyone could agree that there are 3 basic types of competencies that people look for in jobs. In our field in particular, and because we are a profession and there are specific tenets of what make us a profession, we know that there are core competencies or classic competencies, and these are the ones that I think ALA has captured nicely, and those are the ones that we're also taking another look at to make sure that we have not only all the right boxes checked, but that we have the contemporary phrases that we need to use to make sense in the core competencies. So, as I mentioned before, one of the things my initiative will do is take a look at those core competencies and recommend any changes necessary. In addition, we're looking at some secondary core competencies that may go along with other types of master's degrees. In fact, we have been asked to several times take a look at some of the adjacent degrees and also some of the continuing education certifications that are out there that we know are happening, different types of credentialing coming from a variety of different educational institutions. And in addition to that, we've also been asked to look beyond the librarian's job into the library worker's job, specifically two job families, one being a circulation function job family, or what you and I would call the library assistant at the desk. But the second family we've been asked to look at are those technology support people who come into the library and are hired by us to be specific tech support and have a variety of different types of education. And some of those are things that we will be making recommendations on as well. So beyond the core competencies, the second level is really the basic job functions that people need with the core, and oftentimes you'll hear these referred to as the core curriculum in library schools. A reference function, a basic organization of information function, a basic concept in terms of technology. So we know that there are 6 or 7 elements of our job that fall into what we're calling the core of graduate education. And many times the core educational curriculum has 2 offerings. One is that set of competencies that we said was number 1, which is core to the profession, and then number 2 is really core for your first job. Again, your reference, your organization of information, your basic technology, etc. The third tier it's interesting because I think this is relatively clear, but there's a great deal of information out there that might even add a 4th tier and break up the 3rd tier. But I really call the 3rd tier the type of library job competency, because my feeling is libraries are dramatically different from each other, but we also have very strong similarities. So a 3rd tier of competencies might be those that relate to academic versus public versus special, which could be a medical librarian, and those things that are unique to their type of location. The second element are the advanced competencies for that specific area, medical being a good example. And then we also have a strong push for a 4th area, which is literally an adjacent required educational degree. For example, many legal environments will not hire a master's degree person in library and information science alone. They also require a legal degree. An architectural firm or a school of architecture may want a 5-year architecture background and then a master's degree on top of that. So we see that this other 4th area has some amorphic nature to it, but in general we know that the key of the 3rd and 4th tier of competencies is specialization, and that's a critical thing. So why do we care about competencies? Clearly, what we look at is how we can get you your first job, how you can get a successful evaluation in your first job, which is separate from, as we all know, getting the job itself. In addition to that, we know that your professional development career path, which should begin the day you graduate from library school, should have a competency-driven approach. And then finally, how you get your next job is the competency approach. So from day 1 in one job, you may have a long-standing desire to be in another part of the profession or in a different type of environment or a different size of environment, or you may be in an academic and seeking tenure, which in effect is a job related skill set. So what we're looking at there is from day one, your professional development will lead you to be successful in your first job, have a strong evaluation, and then if you need it, get you the second or ultimate job that you want to have. I also want you to think very strongly about the terminology that Valerie talked about, because I think of terminology in two ways. One is, to me, the required approach that Valerie takes that really identifies what you do. And I loved her phrase, you don't do a story time, you don't give a story time, you're teaching a class to 2-year-olds, or a story class, or an environment that lends itself to sort of the second tier of the topic, an instructional session on computers, or working with your toddler, or an instructional session on a LAPSIT program. Those things are phrases that we need to move to almost immediately. But again, you have to tie that to record keeping. You have to make sure that when you report these figures on your monthly report and in your annual report, that they are reported out as such. And so you're really flipping how people are looking at you, not only at work, but when you turn in aggregated data. So things, as we know, have to match up. The second part of terminology I'm interested in you thinking of is a little bit different in terms of competencies, and this past year has just really illustrated for me the critical need. For example, I mentioned that I get requests for not job interviews, but interviews about the profession. And in almost half of the cases, they want to know what we're doing about fake news. And this started from us claiming some territory in fake news. And many of the interviews I've given, I have talked about fake news being in our wheelhouse, that our expertise of information literacy is really critical thinking in terms of fake news. And so I want you to think about those competencies that are in more contemporary language mode, so that I can see a resume that very clearly says that this year you did a number of public awareness sessions on fake news. And that's what a public librarian might say, or a school librarian, instead of an academic's more standard information literacy that may not translate to public, although many public libraries do identify user education, which is great. But think about the level of language that you're using, so that, as Valerie said, it not only connects to the more common core of understanding of language, but that it hits on those contemporary issues that are happening. I'll couple two together. Copyright as it regards downloading information on your phone, or using images on Instagram or Snapchat, anything that talks about taking and repurposing. I think we are experts in, and we need to use their language, as Valerie said, and not just our language. So that too, it may pass, fake news may pass, but sadly, I think a lot of it's here to stay. We have a build out of this program, and I really can't thank my initiative people enough for designing this whole process. But we have in Chicago on Saturday, June 24th in the afternoon, immediately after lunch, that post-lunch session, we have a town hall with these speakers who will return to present information, possibly updated information, and we are inviting people to come and give us feedback and critique. At that session, I will also be presenting the top 10 new job titles and the top 10 new aspects of jobs that are different. So we'll be presenting our playbook at that session and showing you how it's linking on the American Library Association website, on the public site, so that you'll be able to start using that in graduate school, postgraduate school, and as an employer when you're trying to hire people, and as the first job you get, matching yourself to those job areas. Finally, I wanted to relate to one chat question, and I think that we had some good questions we didn't get to, and one I'd like to clarify, that you have an aspect of this that is just critical in terms of competencies, and that is the self-identification or the creation of your profile. Everything today is driven by that. LinkedIn is a set of competencies, not just where you work, but competencies. And John talked about outcomes versus impact. Competencies equal impact. So we're very excited at people talking about the impact they make and matching their competencies. Finally, another chat question. Rachel talks about fake news and alternative facts. Not only are they related, those terms are being used synonymously, and interestingly, alternative facts are completely different from alternate facts. So a great deal of my time is spent coupled with journalists talking to them about what we do and how we support what journalists do in the fact-finding process. We have a wonderful new process that's beginning as well, and we're entering a pilot program, and we're hopeful that we get grant funding. If we don't, there will definitely be an initiative that begins in my presidency, and then I'll stay involved on one level, and then it's going to move to the new president, Jim Neal, and this is on the concept of fake news. I'm working with some people, journalists from the School of Journalism at Harvard, people from the center at Harvard that deals in innovation, and we have a librarian who is one of the Harvard fellows, and she's very interested in doing research on librarians and how we support people in general in terms of getting to the truth. And that's part of what our major roles and responsibilities are, is getting people to the truth and then showing them those critical thinking skills that they need in order to establish truth all by themselves. So thank you so much for joining me today for the entire session. I'm going to go back and listen to it all again. There are several people interested in articles on this, and we're going to take this content and information about competencies that people are putting together and then try to create some additional models for our summer program. So I can't thank you enough, but you can thank me. You can go to ALA Fight for Libraries, and you can look up your legislator and call them, follow the directions, ask them to sign on to the Dear Appropriator letters, and you can assist us in moving forward this year. Someone emailed back after we sent our blast email back, this couldn't be any easier to do, and that's what we tried to do, is do a one-page pipeline to make it easy for you. So I think competencies are part of our answer to the future, but I will absolutely tell you that advocacy is a core competency, and we need to take steps in advocacy now so that we can shore up the aspects of our profession that make it so critical for us to move forward. So I'm looking at the chat. I think people have appreciated things. Thank you for signing on. People will get a link tomorrow to this recording, and Steve or Sandy, if you could tell them that they can get the information and then be repurposing it, that would be great. Thank you.
Hi, this is Steve, and I can definitely say that we'll be sending out the recording links tomorrow. If you go to librarytodaro.com and you look under the main menu or the side menu, you actually can get to the recordings now. They process as we go along. Each recording has the original Blackboard Collaborate recording, and then it takes a little bit of time, but it produces an MP3 and an MP4 as well, so you can download those if you'd like. We had 3,617 people sign up from 97 countries, so a lot of fun. great audience, and we hope that that all of you, live or through recordings, have enjoyed this. Thanks, Julie. Sandy, did you want to mention at all about our May event?
You mean the June event? Yeah, so just a reminder that we, first of all, I want to thank Julie, and I want to thank all the presenters today. You guys did an outstanding job, and I really enjoyed hearing all the important things that you had to say. I did want to mention that we have 2 upcoming events. We have on June 1st, we have mini conference focused around digital literacy and fake news. So a lot of the things that Julie was just talking about, some of those things we're going to be covering and addressing in that upcoming conference. So you'll see more information and requests for proposals coming out very soon. And then on October 11th, we're going to have a mini conference focused around maker spaces. And I think that's going to be another great mini conference. And I hope that you'll be able to contribute and participate in that as well. So again, thank you all for participating, and to Steve for his great partnership, and to Julie for partnering with us on this conference, as well as everybody else. It's been a pleasure. And you guys all have a great day. Thank you, everyone.